Welcome back, everyone, on another episode of the Unquestioned Podcast with Louis de Baere and Willem Himpe. Luigi, how are you doing? Another week, another episode. And
Don't you have to ask where I am?
Listen, I'm not going to ask where you are. That looks like, I don't know, the red brick, the greenery. I already know where you are. You're somewhere in the suburbs in Belgium, probably.
Suburbs, I would say farmland almost. I've
There's
taken
some
up,
guy.
I have green fingers. I've taken up farming. I love to be in nature. That's a joke. Yeah.
City boy, but but it looks like, or maybe you can smell it. There's some potato fields nearby, where
That's
some
right.
man is drinking beer while he's sitting on his tractor and complaining about the government taking his money and taking his fertilizers away because they don't like it using fertilizer on the ground.
Yeehaw.
Grounds. Okay. All jokes aside, Luigi, I want this episode to be actually about a fun topic. I know you as well are very passionate about this one. And I think for the listeners, it would be really good to see our perspective based off us from being from Europe, from Belgium. And the topic of today is the difference between venture capital or VC, we'll probably use some abbreviations, and venture debt, or more the classic way how certain companies. You go.
I think we should start by explaining to people what the difference is between a startup and, you hear this trendy word thrown around all the time, startup, but the difference with a small business like a bakery or a restaurant, because it's a big one. People associate startup with tech, with technology, with apps, but really the difference is that a restaurant or, I don't know, a bicycle shop, a retailer of sorts, is a lot more stable and more predictable, meaning almost anyone can try and start them if they're in it for the long run, if they're serious, and they can go to the bank, and the bank will pretty much know what it's gonna be. Like, for my restaurant, I need staff, I need a location, I need a cook, and of course I'm gonna have to buy some inventory. But startups, on the other hand, are a lot different, and the difference is really that a startup either goes to the moon or it goes to zero. It doesn't make it. And I don't think people really understand how rare it is to have a startup that works, because when it works, especially the American ones, the goal is to take over the world, which by definition doesn't happen often.
No. Plus, what you say there is the business model, let's say, of a traditional restaurant or bike shop. That business model is less risky. You put it on a location. Let's say in that location, there's no bike shops anywhere near, and people love riding their bike in their market. So that is in definition. There you will have some customers, as long as you don't insult them
you can't do much wrong.
and have terrible. Yes, where the business model for many startups often isn't proven yet. The business model they have to create or have to convince customers, the definition really of starting something new up that they don't know they need. And very often it only goes in two ways. It goes completely bust. That means the invested dollars by the founders, by investors, goes to zero, or it goes to the moon, because this is a territory where no other company tried it yet.
Has been, yeah. That's well put, actually. Yeah.
So, and the upside is a lot bigger, like you said, but the risk is a lot higher to lose all your money with a startup. Where a traditional business, the upside is very limited. Because you can, if you have a certain location, which is a bakery, you cannot sell bread to China, let's say, and then send it. And all you could do that, but it's a lot more difficult. But yeah, the risk is a lot lower. So you don't have to outperform the whole world. You need to only outperform certain bakers that are in the region.
Exactly. It's proven. And so somebody described it to me as,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a normal traditional business is like cooking breakfast, making breakfast. We know the recipe for that. But then a startup is like tweeting your breakfast. What is that? That's completely new. There's no basics there. Twitter as a concept was new, like, especially at the time, explaining to people you can follow someone. What do you mean follow? Why would I be interested in following this guy? And maybe I want to follow celebrities, but why would I want to follow regular people? And now the concept is, yeah, now nobody's going to start a social network, because another aspect is that they usually centralize and win over the whole market. It's winner take all. But this different approach, like these unique characteristics of startups, bring us to VC, venture capital, because they also need a different way to fund. It's not like, oh, you know, somebody at the bank is going to give you a good rate, who believes in you, and your uncle, if it's vouching for you, standing behind you. No, that's not how funding works. It's pretty much based on equity instead of having to pay a loan back. Meaning, what investor will usually do is ask for a piece of your company, but especially in the American model, they won't ask for their money back, which gives you basically the freedom to go all in and try something new.
Correct. Where, let's say, because they ask for a part of your business and not just ask their money back with a premium, their upside is a lot bigger, but also their downside. Why wouldn't it work that a bank would fund startups? Because a bank is a traditional, let's say, organization or institution that really needs to have reliant income streams and is using money from everyday citizens. So you cannot take very big risks. Where venture and risk capital, venture capital, there usually it's not like every single person puts money into a venture capital fund and then they just hope as well that they get a little bit of interest on that. No, it's usually more as an investment vehicle, not just as a savings vehicle. That aside, I wanted to explain a little bit the differences that we see with Belgian venture capital or European venture capital versus American venture capital. Because most people that listen to this podcast or that are a little bit interested in tech, or every application or technology, a lot of the technology they use are usually originated from America. So maybe Louis, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you want to kick us off, what do you feel like the venture capital in Europe versus venture capital in America? How are they different?
Well, first of all, it's really about culture. And it's mostly Silicon Valley that is unique. And how do we know that? Well, if you look at the apps on your phone, name any of the apps, Uber, Google, Snapchat, Airbnb,
What?
all of those except Spotify, they all originated from Silicon Valley, from San Francisco, from California, from the west of the US. And that's where originally the reason it's called Silicon Valley is because of the transistor that they use for computer chips. But even today, at the very the tip of the spear, at the most bleeding edge of tech, large language models, so ChatGPT, it's also originated in the same area. So there is a lot of research going on, a lot of good universities, and there is a sort of a very special investment culture there, and it's based off of trying new things. People are very, it's almost, yeah, encouraged and very much accepted that you're a bit eccentric and you try your own thing. Like, because in a coffee bar, the guy sitting there with the hoodie could be the next Mark Zuckerberg. And yeah, people are, I guess, a lot more forgiving. And so the way that they invest in things is very different. They know also that 9 out of 10 investments are going to go to zero. They know that, like the funds, the investors know that. And so you as well should be very aware of that if you are in the US and in SF. And now
Yeah.
comparing that to the situation here it's a lot more traditional, and it comes closer to the small business examples that we gave. Here people are like, wait, are you sure this is going to work? um I need to see more proof, and I would like to get my money back. Not always, like there are good investors here, but yeah, the model is a lot different.
Yeah, and I think the reason why that is mainly because in Silicon Valley, or maybe America as a whole, they've seen many of these success stories where venture capital really has made enormous returns, and where Belgium, let's say sadly, we don't have stories like this, where out of the ground suddenly a massive company came with a size like the Googles of today, the Netflix and so on. Where you do see in other countries in Europe, for example Sweden, where our lovely co-host Louis de Barre is working for. There you do see like new companies in this wave, like a Lovable. There's a couple other ones, and
Klarna.
a really a stronger and stronger ecosystem. Klarna, correct? Klarna, sorry. Is it Klarna? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The company that where you can pay later, that really works well with the young generation. Get your goods and pay later, or in installments for it. Um, but why is it over there that it does work? Is because they saw the success of it really firsthand, and that's why as well they're more willing to risk and invest it. And from my personal experience in Belgium, the venture capital there, we have a couple of nice success stories, mainly in B2B SaaS, such as Showpad, TechWolf, for example, and a couple others. And that is where you see is it's called venture capital, because it's still risky, but often when they invest, it's often where there's already recurring revenue, where there's already a little bit of a good kind of customer relationship with a certain industry. So you cannot say that it's completely risky and like pre-ID what sometimes get funded in America. Do you agree with that, Louis?
Yeah, for sure. And this the circumstances are also different. As we know, it's easier to to ask for bankruptcy in America, a non-compete agreement where you're not allowed to work for another company. That's not enforceable in California, so you don't have that. So we also have to consider that the laws are quite different. And well, the fact that I started with culture is because it does matter a lot if, let's say, you make it, the reason a $1 billion valued company in the private markets is called a unicorn is because it's so rare to have a company like that, a startup, be valued like that. Once you make it, you're automatically have this, yeah, this payback that you want to do, this pay it forward mentality. So you, in turn, you finally have your money, are also going to start cutting checks, what we call angel money, and you're going to make angel investments to be like, I don't know, the first 50,000 euros to just let somebody try something. And then maybe you get a return on that, maybe not, probably not, but you give people a chance because somebody believed in you. And I think it's very hard to, and it's almost irrational to do it in certain settings as nobody else is doing it. So there's definitely a lot to California because Hollywood is there as well. And the movie business is also like a long shot. You don't know if a movie is going to succeed, what it's going to make. And there's even older history where people would fund ships that would go and hunt for whales because the whales would have a certain type of oil that's very, like, I don't know if it's kerosene or something, that's very valuable because it's used, to light things. And those missions would almost always fail. Like half of the ships wouldn't come back. And that was their version, the version of venture capital from back in the day, is like fund those ships and probably not see your money. But if you did see it, if they did succeed, you got a big payback, an outsized one. It would probably make your year, or at least make your name.
Yeah, I was looking here and it says sperm oil. I'm not sure if that is correct. But ChatGPT, I'll double check it and I'll put it below.
It's sperm whales, I think. Yeah.
Well, all sperm and whale all aside. One thing as well I want to highlight, is it truly risky in a way? Because if you look at the metrics, that 9 out of the 10, or maybe it's a bit even, like for really have a massive company like a Facebook, it's probably more like 1 out of 100 to have such a big returns. Is it risky if you, for example, have one fund, you've invested it all, but you have to wait a minimum of 10 to 15 years before this massive exit comes through or becomes a reality? But if you in the meantime just keep collecting new money for a new fund and just keep doing and just waiting until you have your one big return, because based on the probabilities, it will happen.
Yes, it is. It is riskier. You bring up a good point, which is you all are only, just like some other types of investment vehicles, you're only going to see your money back in 10 to 15 years. And it's only then that you'll know if any of your individual companies has succeeded, didn't die, didn't perish on the way, and that that your fund has succeeded. Because usually it's so asymmetric. It is so unusual to have a winner, not even more than one, just one, because they return the whole fund, but you only see that after more than 10 years. And why does this make it so much harder? Because you can get a certain stable and secure return every year by not doing much, by being a passive investor, or even a little bit more active, but to invest in like sure things, like in Kraft Heinz ketchup, stuff people will always need. You can keep doing that for years on years and use the strongest force in the universe, compound interests. And after 30 years, you can, make back. You can even have some failures. It doesn't matter. You can make a lot more money, a lot more predictably. So that makes, aside from the fact that these startups are the Olympics of business, people don't realize that's how hard it is to create. It's like 1,000 times harder to create 100K in ARR or 1 million in ARR than it is to, as a freelancer, have billables like that, for example, and do something that doesn't scale. To have something truly new that scales and takes over the world is so hard. But that doesn't mean that investing in them is any easier. People really underestimate what true, how much of a savvy mind you need for true venture capital. and that's why most funds don't perform well. They're not gonna do better. It really comes down to that one win. So, for example, if you were part, and we all know them because we use them, if you were part of one of the success stories like Uber, it's probably your only win and your best win in your life, and you can make a name for yourself with that.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to add before we end this episode, I don't think that in Belgium, for example, this will happen just because of this, let's say, high risk mentality. So if you, and that's a bit of the sad thing, but if you really want to be able to do this, then yeah, you would have to go to the place where it has been done over and over. And that's as well maybe a little headwind to our next episode of next week is stay versus exit. Not exiting your company, but exit your own country.
Yeah, you need to go there if you want to compete with the best. It's the frontier. It's not hard. God designated it as the place with sunshine. You go west until you can't go any further, and there's used to be gold in the ground. So what more do you need as a signal?
Correct. And maybe just I have an extra brain thought that I would wanna share as well when I was researching is that many of the venture capital funds that have as well founders that did it in the past outperform the ones that weren't founders. Okay, you have some anomalies, but because you were a founder, you recognize as well where you have gone through, and as well with investing, it's basically experience and knowledge. And a founder who has been there, done it, and exited his company, he will has much better pattern recognition in that. So, as an insight or as an advice, I would say get as much founders in that industry inside of your fund, because based of data it performs a lot better than just, let's say, putting a banker and let him decide on which startup is going to go to the moon. It's not maybe they're good with money, but
to use an analogy that you'll like, that's typically you. It's like a coach that used to be a player. No?
Correct. And it's the same. Yeah, same for any sport. Is like, and it's weird where in every, let's say, case where the person has done it before, it's logical that they have more experience in leading the team or making decisions.
What it's like. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but I think that's a good way to end. First of all, hopefully we gave you a good summary of the difference between VC and venture debt, and why it's very risky of VC, but why it should have such a big returns. Plus as well, what are the differences between Europe and the venture capital in the big United States of America. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this as well. Keep or tag along in our next episode where we'll share exit or stay and what kind of other things you need to take into account. And voilà, hopefully you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you back on another episode of the Unquestioned Podcast.